Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. My name is Florida HD, and today we are discussing Dead Island 2, and honestly, two of the biggest problems I had with major reviews of this game. And they're not necessarily problems, but I think just things that were misinterpreted when the reviewers played this game. Now, specifically, you're probably wondering, Florida, what reviews are you talking about? Well, if you look at the big guys, and when we talk about big guys, normally most people, when it comes to video game reviews, think of IGN. Now, them and some others have placed Dead Island 2 at the spot at around 7 out of 10, which honestly is a good rating for a modern video game, which we all know. Now, if you check the pros and cons list for most of these major reviewers, you'll see one thing in common, and it was that Dead Island didn't take itself seriously, and that there was a pretty major lack of a story, and that the story that is presented to you, being the main one, just wasn't up to par for some people. So, being a Dead Island 2 player, it got me thinking, what really counts as a story in a video game? Is it the main one that's presented to you that gives you floating objectives and tasks to complete and guides you in a general direction? Or is it the story that most people don't see? Is it the story of that path that you rush by that you decided not to take? Is it the story of a house that you enter where you look around at the environment and you discover who lived there, and then you discover it was a family? Oh, look, it was a family of 3. Oh, hey, look, this is the kids' room. I wonder what happened to them during the apocalypse. You can find the story around you. It's called environmental storytelling, and it's something that is newer, and I hate to sound like an older boomer millennial here. Okay, guys, I am a millennial. I can't deny it. I was here, and I was in high school when I played Dead Island 1. And I just wonder sometimes whenever I read these reviews from these big-time video game companies, how old the person is that's doing it. I usually check very often, and normally it is a much younger person who is doing reviews on these games, which I totally and completely understand. New generations deserve new writers, that's easier for people to understand and get along with the current generation. Like, I get it. I completely get it. But it makes me wonder sometimes if that person was there for Dead Island 1, if they were there to experience it when it released, or did they play it 10 years later because they heard the second one was coming out and really didn't give it a good try? Did they know the video game market, what it was like in 2011, and separated Dead Island 1 from the rest? I feel like a lot of this contributes to the mixed reviews because, well, for one, if they were around and actually gave Dead Island 1 a solid chance, you would know that there is no real main story. You're a person thrust into an environment that consists of zombies, and the core gameplay is killing zombies all the time. No, it never took itself too seriously in the main story and what your character that you chose had to do, but what it did take seriously was the environment around you. It never really tells you to go explore and discover all these things. It's completely up to you. And if you don't do that, I can totally understand why you would think this game is shallow and has no depth. And I'm just here to tell you the depth in Dead Island 2 is all around you. And it comes in the environment, as I mentioned, the environmental storytelling. It's the signs that are all around you, the ones that you don't read that you might pass over. It's the photos and houses so you can discover who lived there and understand what happened to them during the apocalypse. It really puts you into something that is different from most games that hold your hand so much. It has to tell you what's going on. And in that case, at least in the case of Dead Island 2, that's just not how it is. Now, a second major concern that I've seen portrayed in major reviews is the fact that the game is not open world. Well, if you remember correctly, neither was Dead Island, well, at least the original Dead Island. I think Riptide had a more open world to it. Dead Island 1 did consist of sections. So Dead Island 2 consists of sections. Is that a bad thing? No, absolutely not. I know a lot of the gaming community feels this way when it comes to open world games, and there being this huge, massive world to explore that is the dullest thing you have ever witnessed, and it becomes more of a hassle to cross it than it does to be consumed in its world. And that's what Dead Island 2 really achieves. These sections are honestly really, it's like they're handcrafted to guide you in a direction, but at the same time it entices you to explore the rest of them. I think I spent 2 to 3 hours in Bel Air alone, and that's the first section of the game. There's other people, like my other friends were already on the third and fourth one, and I'm like, dude, I'm still on the first. Like, I found this house over here that it doesn't even tell you to go through, and it's a giant mansion, and I'm just getting all of this loot and all this crazy stuff. And like, that's what makes this game awesome. And it helps, and it's so much more refreshing to have a handcrafted experience for a player rather than an open world that's just generated and desolate. And honestly, guys, those were the two biggest points that I thought were just completely missed in the major reviews that I read. And if you're curious about the ones that I'm talking about, I will link them in the description below so you can read and enjoy them and see them for yourself. And with that being said, I really don't think these major reviewers did that terrible of a job reviewing the game. I just think it should never be a negative to, one, not have an open world game, and two, to not even realize that environmental storytelling is a thing and is a part of a game. And just because the story doesn't necessarily throw that in your face doesn't mean that it's not presented to you in some way. And with that, guys, I'm going to sit back, relax, and slay some zombies in Dead Island 2, and I will see you guys in the next video.